Wow, it's bright. It's so bright. Hi everyone, it is Claire from Woodshed Theory. This is my channel where I talk about being an adult on the spectrum and also get creative on the weekends. But today we're going to talk about something that for me I think is a little bit controversial. I try to stay lighthearted about things, but I am seriously fearing the backlash of protective parents out there when it comes to the topic that we're going to talk about. So I do need to say the following. I am not a doctor. The thoughts and opinions shared in this video are my own and no one else's, just mine. Please do not look to me for any medical advice on any subject. I am making this video purely because I have been asked this question several times and think that it would be helpful for some people to hear from an autistic adult who was not diagnosed until after her 30s. It would be helpful for you to know what I think about the subject. I want to make it clear that every person on the spectrum is different and has different symptoms and abilities, and every situation is different. And I can only share with you my personal experience and preferences. That being said, here we go. You find out your child is on the spectrum at a young age. Do you raise them to know that they are autistic, or do you keep that? You find out your child is on the spectrum at a young age. Do you raise them to know they are autistic, or do you keep it from them as to not have them be held back by their diagnosis? As I mentioned, I've had this question come up fairly regularly because there are parents who do choose to keep the diagnosis from their children. But why? And is it the right thing for your kid? First, I wanted to start with the perceived cons of telling a person early. This might be how parents are feeling when facing the choice to tell or not to tell. I think the biggest perceived con would be having your child treated differently because they are on the spectrum. Depending on their ability to mask their autism in the outside world, maybe if they are able to blend in, they should. And then they would not be subjected to the sometimes negative stigma that is neurodiversity. Additionally, maybe if your child knows they're autistic, they won't be able to reach their full potential as a person because they will place self-limiting beliefs on themselves or never be treated like they are capable of great things. So it's better if they don't know, so they can thrive because they don't know they're different. This is when it starts getting a little tricky for me. Instead, for me, this is where it gets complicated. I try to think back to my life and imagine how knowing would have made things different. I didn't know, but I was able to mask and function mostly under the radar. So I pushed myself to do all the clubs, extracurricular activities, tried to keep up with a normal packed schedule. I held a part-time job that I went to after school. I also did fairly well in school and went to university and then on to postgraduate studies twice. So I often wonder if I would have been able to accomplish that if I had gotten an early diagnosis and then was maybe treated differently as a result. That question is hard to answer, but I have sat with it for a while and have also read around the internet to figure out whether other late diagnosed autists were saying the same thing. And the overwhelming majority, me included, say, yes, we would like to have known earlier. I don't personally believe that autism diagnosis is some kind of death sentence if presented in the correct way. To me, being on the spectrum can be a wonderful thing, even with some of its drawbacks socially. But the point is, if you know early, you can be taught social skills earlier, you can be taught some emotional reasoning earlier, and you can learn to self-regulate your emotions earlier. You can get the support that you need at home and at school earlier. I think it would have been nice to know this about myself earlier in life. Being on the spectrum can be very uncomfortable and distressing. The constant questioning of why something feels off with you and why you just can't be normal or like other people can lead to other comorbidities like depression. It would have been nice to have someone inform me early so I could have adjusted to living in a world that isn't built around me and not to be sorry in the times I don't fit into normal culture. So yes, I do think you should tell your kids early in life. Being autistic is not a bad thing. It's just a difference in our brain structure. Knowledge is a very empowering thing to those on the spectrum and can give people a revelatory level of peace when it comes to interacting with the world. Believe me, your child knows they are different from other people. Keeping the diagnosis from them won't necessarily help them. It may actually hinder them. I don't think it healthy or necessary to make them believe otherwise, as it will only cause them to believe they are less instead of different. Knowing you are different and having the right support systems in place can actually help a person reach their full potential in a healthy and happy way. And parents can usually provide that to their ASD child with some research and assistance. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments how old you were when you found out. Did you find out early? How did you react? Are you happy that you knew early, or do you wish that you had found out later? I am sure that there are parents out there who would like to hear your thoughts as they are contemplating this question right now on what to do with their children. As I mentioned, I understand that this is a loaded question and that other people out there might not share my opinion that you should, yes, tell your kids early in life if you know. But to me, yes, a child should be informed of their condition if there are no other underlying issues at play in the situation. Again, it's hard to say because I don't know what situation you're going through. I'm just talking about what would have been nice for me. I know that a lot of times people had tried to help me and did not know what was wrong. So I'm not saying that people weren't trying. I'm saying now that I know, I wish I had known earlier. It would have changed a lot about how I interacted with the world and really just given me a lot less stress. So those are my thoughts for the day on this issue. I hope to talk to you soon, and thanks for sticking around.